Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We'll now move to member questions, and the chair recognizes herself for 5 minutes to do so. First, Mr. Secretary, we know that we don't agree with, or I don't agree with your decision relative to ARPA-H, but here are my 2 questions very quickly on it. You've explained that by placing it in NIH, it was necessary to do so so that the administrative work of standing up the agency could take place. My question is precisely how much time does ARPA-H need NIH's administrative support to get stood up? Just very quickly.
Madam Chair, we're going to use NIH to make sure that those ministerial duties.
I know. How much time?
We'll wait to make sure that we get a director in place to find out exactly how much that director
So
will
you
want
don't
to
know
use.
how much time yet?
No, because we have to make sure that the new director has the ability
Okay.
to make some of those
Can
decisions.
ARPA-H, in your view, be an independent, standalone agency once it is stood up?
It will be an agency that has its own authorities and its own direction and its own director that will report directly to me.
I think I just got the answer. Political reports that FDA may wait to receive both Moderna and Pfizer's vaccine applications for children under 5 before beginning the authorization process. But Moderna's vaccine application may be ready before Pfizer's. Is it true that FDA plans to wait for both applications? I mean, obviously, parents across the country are their patience is strained.
The FDA is waiting to receive that information from both of those manufacturers, and as soon as it has the information, it will move through the process of trying to find out if it is safe and effective
So
to use
is
for children.
FDA waiting for both applications?
It still has not received the full applications from either one.
Okay. The COVID response, back to the budget, the COVID response under the Trump administration, I think, was really marked by a great deal of chaos. The strategic national stockpile was empty. Local public health departments were overwhelmed. It took far too long to get tests and treatments to the public. In May of 2020, our subcommittee heard from former BARDA Director Rick Bright about how he and his agency were marginalized and ignored when he pushed to develop critical COVID treatments and increase production of masks and other equipment. Under your leadership, BARDA is empowered to respond to COVID and future pandemics. My question to you is, BARDA's budget is continually rated to fund other HHS efforts. If Congress provides the new pandemic preparedness funding, will you commit that BARDA will not see its funding transferred to other agencies? These are very important funds. The Strategic National Stockpile has its own funding, $975 million. $828 billion with a $80 million increase to BARDA. But if the figures are only markings on a sheet of paper, what needs to benefit the American people is not going to take place. So I think my overall arching question, Mr. Secretary, is the following. Are you changing course, and if so, how, in terms of pandemic preparedness? We've learned many lessons. It's so important for us to demonstrate that we've learned the lessons of the past and not just pile on more money to more programs. So can you just spend a moment to describe where the changes are and also your commitment to BARDA?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. I won't speak for previous treatments of BARDA, but what I will tell you is, as you see in our budget, we call for a 10% increase in its budget. BARDA will be one of the chief proponents of the President's Pandemic Preparedness Plan moving forward. The work that is being done through HCOR, which is the operation that took over from Operation Warp Speed, relies on BARDA. From my perspective, we can't get out of this pandemic without BARDA. And we're going to do everything we can to lift up BARDA because it is the agency that Congress created to help us navigate those minefields.
I like your description of BARDA. I'm very proud that it was my legislation that created it. So I think at some point, Mr. Secretary, that you give an overall view, perhaps today, if not in writing, what is going to change, and the new dollars that, the increases that are infused in the overall agency.